Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we've got Drew Carter with us. Today, we're talking about his company, Whistle Rewards, and how do we really make impacting change in a company? What does it take? Drew, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Anthony. It's great to be here. I'll tell you, I hear all the time people say, how can I get my people to do what I want them to do?
Drew, can't I just beat them? Come on, can I just beat my employees?
Yeah. The beatings will continue until morale improves. I mean, that's the way a lot of companies roll. And it's not because they're trying to be jerks, but they're going, hey, you got to do X, Y, and Z. Fill out the report or else, right? That's kind of the typical approach. That's what we've been trained. That's how we all learned in school, right? The nuns walked around and whacked you on the fingers. But we know actually that's not how people react well, because
it doesn't work.
Right? It doesn't work. It causes people to want to undermine you. They get mad. And what really happens is, they glad hand you. They're like, yeah, Anthony, I'll do that. And as soon as you're gone, they're like, I'm going to do the opposite of that. So that's what we've been focused on for years in my company. And what we're really looking at is you've got the stick approach, but then what about the carrots? And so at work, I talk to so many people. They're like, man, carrots, I pay you. That's a carrot. Unfortunately, that's just not enough, right? Especially today, Gen Z kids, right? They just want a pat on the back like every 30 minutes, which maybe it's a little too much, but you can use those incentives. You can use the idea of, I appreciate you, I see you, and you can really drive behavior. That's what's pretty fun.
Well, you got to look at the Gen Z kids and see where they were trained. I mean, look, a lot of them came from, and I would even say in my group, which is a little older, our parents didn't have a great training model. There isn't some book that they followed. They weren't great at life training. A lot of us just went through the school of hard knocks, figure it out, suck it up, kid, all that kind of stuff. And it's not a real effective way of training. I would even say the Gen Z kids had a better way of training. A lot of them are video game players, and levels kind of gave them there was this like, all right, I passed a level, bing, passed a level, bing, right? There was some value to that training. And I think that's a little bit about what you're talking about, that kind of suffer through something, do something hard, and then get a reward. Is that kind of where we're going with this?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that idea, all those mechanics in games, and actually it's not just games. Think about social media, right? Every time your phone gives you a little ding, hey, you got a new message, you got a response, someone liked your thingy, whatever, right? All that creates this dopamine response, right? And it's our brain that's trained, right, from caveman days that says, oh, something flashy, something shiny, this is good, I want more of that. So what we know now is from neuroscience, the first time you do something and you get a reward, the dopamine comes when you get that reward after the event. But then your brain goes, oh, wait, if I do that again, am I going to get more dopamine? And the dopamine response happens in anticipation. So video games and social media, all the addictive things we have, create this dopamine response where people are like, yes, I'm going to keep hitting this button as much as possible to flood myself with dopamine. So there's some dark sides to that. But really, knowing that works, what we're looking at is, how do we use that in corporate life? Can I use that mechanism to get people to do the things that they should do anyway? Sort of like, how do I get you to eat the kale salad instead of the cheeseburger, right? It's good for you. It doesn't feel that good in the moment.
Right. And it kind of takes a little bit of training, all these hard things to really start to get here. Why we eat kale salads rather than the cheeseburger, right? At first, I like cheeseburgers. I like the greasy mess, and there was maybe even the addiction from the burger bun, the sugar, right? Some of that stuff feels some addictive mentality. Maybe even that fulfilledness, right? The big giant greasy burger does fill a gap inside of us socially. That's there. I know all that's psychological, and I don't want to get too deep into that part, but there is something about that that's way more fulfilling than, I got to eat this roughage and this. I'm not a rabbit. Come on, Drew, you want me to be a rabbit? So I get it, but once I start to get there, right, and I start to do, I get a little bit of a change in my behavior, right, and it kicks on, then you start to see the results of it, And my real judgment is then you start to want to do that, and it in itself becomes the driver,
Yeah,
right? You know,
that's 100% right. And if you think in your life, think about, I'm just going to say the physically fit people as an example, right? You got some friends that, man, they're cut, right? They got their beach body ready for the summer. Those people are hitting the gym every day. They're dedicated, and they've got that flywheel spinning. They're like, yep, I know every time I work out, it helps me look good. I like looking good. I'm ready for the beach. But then, for the rest of us, we're like, well, man, today, like, do I want to work out today? Because I'm not going to look better this afternoon if I work out today. It's, tomorrow me that's like 6 months down the road is going to benefit from me working out today. But God, getting from today me to 6 months down the road me, that's the tough part. Once I'm 6 months down the road and I'm cut, I'm like, yeah, I'm in. So the challenge is, how do we bridge that gap? How do we say, all right, Anthony, I know you don't want to work out today, but do it, because you're going to be glad in a few months. And that's where those little incentives can come into place, right? Little carrots that we put in front of you where you go, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And so I don't yet have that internal motivation. I'm not intrinsically motivated yet. But if I can create a series of carrots that start that flywheel moving, in a few months, now I do have that intrinsic motivation. That's what we're going for. How do I crowd in that intrinsic motivation so that I don't have to create incentives forever, but in a few months, you're like, yeah, I'm cut, baby. Now I'm hitting the gym every day because I know the benefit that I get from it.
Yeah, right. I can see that in, multiple places where I've changed behaviors throughout my life. I was a smoker once, right? And quitting smoking was such a nonsense thing. I mean, I smoked a pack of cigarettes a day, and quitting smoking was what I thought was the hardest thing I was going to ever go through. And, then I started using the patch. And I made it like I remember the first day I made it with no smoking. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't smoke. And I had to wear those patches for like 4 months. I mean, it was probably longer than most people do. But once I was done and I'd made it 4 months without a cigarette, even when I took the patches off, which was a day or two of uncomfortable, some of the withdrawals were still there, but I had made it 4 months without it. I didn't smell like cigarettes anymore. I didn't have them in my car, right? So I had this like little helper that the patch. And I got through, it was 4 months of not smoking and not having my wife looking like, you stink, or, walking in a room and being embarrassed, or having that hook every time I walked out of an airport. I had to run to the outside to smoke. All those hooks that were that leash that cigarettes had on me, that nicotine had on me. And then all of a sudden, just that little jump from the patch to no patch wasn't so hard.
Yeah. And that's, creating those little carrots. It's funny. I get asked a lot, well, how much does it take to change behavior? Like, what, I got to pay people like $1,000 to do something, or, I'm asking people to, whatever, do something every day, fill out a log or do some paperwork or take photos or just whatever the thing is, how much am I going to have to spend? And there's a couple of principles around this. The first one that you found, like with smoking, the first one is the biggest impact to driving behavior is timing on your feedback loop. So, if you've ever potty trained a puppy, right? Right. Puppy pees on the rug. You have 2 seconds to give him some feedback, right? A little smack on the nose so he knows, oh, yeah, I'm not supposed to do that. If you wait like an hour, give the puppy a smack on the nose, he's like, what? I was just standing here, right? So timing's super important. But if you can do things quickly, right? I say something like, whatever you're doing that's good. Hey, Anthony, I want you to take photos of a job site, or whatever it is. As soon as you do that, and I say, hey, thanks, man, let me buy you a cup of coffee. That's all it takes. But it's got to be right then. Couple bucks, but you got to do it right away. You got to be authentic. And then people start to say, I'm the kind of guy that takes photos every day of my job site, because that's part of my job. So in 30, 60 days, they're like, oh yeah, I don't need incentives anymore. This is just what I do.
Yeah. Well, it also, what kicks in is, I've got clarity of communication to the team. People start going, hey, oh my God, that Anthony guy sends reports on time every day. That company I work with, CDO Group, they always give me update reports. And my clients are so happy to see the daily progress and actually what's going on and clear communication. It sets a behavior in a relationship that becomes addictive. Like people start to really go, I love working with those guys. They give me great reports every day. I can see updates. I can see what we're working on. And it goes from the patch, right? I got the little reward system to wanting to do it because the way people talk about it and the way of being becomes something of real value. And now all of a sudden you're the great communicator on the job site.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I have a funny anecdote for you. One of our clients was having trouble getting time cards in on time, right? Time cards got to be in by 5:30 on Friday. And there's just a handful of people that could never get it done, right? And so, if you don't get your time card in, it causes you all sorts of problems. You can't bill your clients, stuff like that. And they tried hammering those people. Look, if you don't get your time card in, you're going to be fired, which is kind of a, false claim, right? Because they weren't really going to fire someone. And the same people over and over couldn't get it done. And they had all these reasons. Oh, I can't because I got a long drive after the shift or what. I can't do it. So they said, okay, next week, everybody that gets their time card in on time gets $10, right? That week, all the same people missed. And then they saw all their buddies. They all got $10. And you'd think, what is $10 compared to your paycheck? It's trivial. The week after that, 100%. Everyone got their time card in. All those people who said, oh, I can't possibly do it. No way, because of this and this and this. They had this FOMO, right? Everybody else is getting a little $10 reward and I didn't get mine. It's also using some of the game mechanics of, here's a small deal, but you missed out on yours. Everybody else got theirs. People are like, well, I can't have that, right?
Great. When you say time cards, I can't tell you. So on the other side of our business, we're a project management company, and weekly time cards against projects, how many hours you spend on each project you're working on, which I've given up on it. I mean, the fact that you just said that literally just put a light on in my head, like, oh my God, I've gotten to the point where I just kind of gave into it's never going to happen. But
Right.
I love this idea. It was something literally I've given up on. It caused so much angst in my body every time I'm like, all right, and you're right. It's always the same people, and they always make a big deal. Like, oh, I'll make 15-minute call, 15-second call here. How am I supposed to check all this stuff? I'm like, look, just get close as you can, get the best you can. Look, take a 40-hour week and just kind of figure out how many hours against what projects you're working on. Keep a little ticker next to you, and the pulling of teeth is what it feels like as a leader. Never thinking about this, right? This is great because even for me, I get this idea like, all right, I could put this in place. Yeah. What's it worth if you take, 25 people? Is it worth $250 at the end of the week to have everybody have their time card in?
Yeah. Right. And you don't do it forever. But the other fun thing is, those people who say, oh, here's why I can't do it. They got a long list. Oh, I can't do it because of this and this and this. When they want to do it, they will solve all those themselves, right? Because you're trying to solve it for them, but the real problem isn't what they're saying. The real problem is they don't want to do it.
That's right.
So if they want to do it, they'll solve it. You don't have to go and figure out how to solve those challenges. They will find the path to get it done, and that's what's so interesting, right? You make people want to do it with a tiny little carrot, and all of a sudden you're like, great, I don't have to solve any of these problems. They're figuring it out themselves.
Yeah, that's right. I could almost 100% say I've noticed that every time something doesn't get done, it's just a matter of wanting to. It's a story they make up about what it is and why they can't, and some story they've told themselves, yeah, this is useless. No one can see the value of it. You're just wasting my time doing this, or whatever it is. They can't see the other side of the value. And you're right. That feels like to them that they're wasting their time. So I don't know if it's, so you're saying, hey, instead of them trying to see the value in it, give them the value for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Make it real and tangible. And the key though is if you want somebody to, let's just take the example of timesheet. You say, look, get your timesheet in by 5:30 Friday. If you say, yeah, great job, Anthony, you got your timesheet in, but 2 weeks later, you give them a little something, it's not going to matter, right? it's got to be right then. Like I click the button or I hand in the paper or whatever the mechanism is, right then you got to say, nice work. Here's a cup of coffee or a beer on me or whatever it is. It's got to be right then.
Right there, right? Yeah, it's great. So it's immediate, and that's the app that you guys have created, right? It really gives them an immediate, good deed done or good behavior done, immediate reward, right?
That's
And
exactly right.
is that really what Whistle Rewards is about?
Yeah, we've got automated incentives where as soon as you click the button, you submit the thing or do whatever, bang, you get a text message with, hey, you just earned a cup of coffee. It's really like $5 on a Visa card that you can spend wherever you want. We've also got spot rewards. So imagine you're walking a job site or you're running a manufacturing plant or whatever. You could be like, great, guys, if we hit 100 units, as soon as we do, everybody gets an extra $50. Okay, bang, I hit one button, everybody gets $50. The idea is, how can I create immediate incentives? Because that's what drives behavior the most. How can I make it easy and simple? You don't have to, there's no points or a catalog or any of that muck. How can I give someone the idea of, hey, I want to buy you a cup of coffee, but really you can spend it wherever you want. If coffee's not your jam, I don't care. I'm not handing you like a Starbucks card. So it's that type deal with a whole bunch of the behavioral science mechanisms. Here's a fun one for you, Anthony. So when we run incentive programs like that, they typically run a few months because we're trying to train the habit. When those end, often what we deploy is what we call a regret lottery. So we say, let's take the time card example again. You say, all right, we did incentives for a couple months, get everybody into the habit. Great. Now, once a quarter, I'm going to draw a name from a hat. Let's say I pick up Anthony's name. I go, Anthony, you just won $500. I just need to make sure you got your time card in every week this quarter. Oh, Anthony, you missed a week. So sorry, your name goes back in the hat. Now I'm picking Joe Smith out of here. You would have won, but for you missed a week. Man, that drives people crazy, right? They won't do that again. And it's all fair. You're like, this is the rules.
Yeah. Oh, right.
All you
No, I
gotta do is
get
get your
it.
time card in.
Yeah, I don't. It's funny how we've started to learn that the human look. I think that's the gift of where we are. We're evolving to see our behaviors, right? I think that's one of the greatest gifts of where we are in a society now is that we've we came from where we came from prehistorically, then we got into this industrial revolution, early manhood, then we get to through the industrial revolution. Now we're kind of evolving past that, and we've got these great tools like AI that are coming down the pipeline. These things where we can start to before that, it was too much data to be able to get to cover an entire organization with these little incentives. Now you've got these tools that can make the system a lot easier to operate.
Yeah, that's right. And if you go back kind of 20 years ago, economists, assumed everyone was perfectly rational, right? And so we have all these economic models that say like, oh, well, if the price goes up, demand will go down and blah, 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 which has a hard time accounting for like Ferrari, right? Or stuff like that. And so behavioral economics emerged to say, we're really not rational. We do a ton of irrational stuff. So now AI, we've got technology growing. AI is now starting to understand how people really work, right? That's really a big part of that transition, because if everyone's an automaton and is rational, okay, I've got this rule set. It's like the game of chess, follows the rules. But none of us work that way. So now a big part of AI is going, oh yeah, now I get this. These people are not rational, but I'm starting to understand how they do behave, right? And so as AI starts to really understand, oh, okay, I understand people, but now I understand Anthony. This is what pushes his buttons. So now I can sort of lay out my own little set of carrots for Anthony. This is what's going to get him to do the things. Now we're talking some serious stuff, right? That's pretty interesting on a personal, imagine a machine that knows you better than you know yourself, right? Imagine the ads that it provides or the experience it gives you, right? It's like,
we're going down a pipeline. It's kind of like, one of my worries about AI, and it's the magical part of it is that it'll learn us better than we know ourselves, right? I mean, it's an agent that will literally be there knowing us all day, every day. I mean, up until now, you know, advertisers had to advertise to 100% of the people to be able to get to what maybe is a couple percent of the audience. And, you know, today we're starting to be able to see people through social media and their behavior and watching, especially now with AI models, being able to be with you all day, every day. You know, my phone is with me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is closer to me than any other device in my life. I crap with it on my knee. I sleep with it next to my bed. I work out with it when I go to the gym. I have it in my office. I have it in my love life. I have it. I mean, it's everywhere.
It's,
you know?
it's probably a more intimate relationship with your phone than almost anyone else in your life.
For sure.
If somebody asked you for the passcode to your phone, right?
Yeah.
Me, I'd be like, I don't, probably not.
Well, I mean, if you would have said to me 30 years ago, all right, Anthony, you're going to have to carry a device that knows everything you do, everywhere you're going, how much is in your bank, what do you watch on TV, what do you, I'd be, no way, I'm an American, no way, no, listen to Sylvia, no way, you're not watching me, no way. Now I pay you $1,000 a year for the newest, latest, greatest IX, whatever the phone is that you got. I pay you $1,000 a year for that phone to give me the newest, latest, and greatest device so I can carry it around, and it knows that and a lot more, because every time you and I talk or anybody talks, it pops up on my feed a few minutes later.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And
yeah.
if you ever walk out of the house without your phone, oh my God, it's like I don't have pants on. Like
worse, right? I mean, the anxiety that's caused when I leave my phone someplace, it's real.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've got this data gathering tool that's not just data, but it's really, you know, I'm going to say it's basically sentient, right? It understands what's going on. And so you've got that, you know, matched up with AI. It is super exciting. And, you know, I'm sure everybody hears about like the terrible case of, you know, the machines taking over the world and killing us all.
Come on, I watched Transformers. I saw the finger at the end of the movie coming across. I saw that, right? And there's the right when I don't know something. When I don't know something, what I do, I reach back in my memory, right, and I go back to some past idea. I go back. I don't know what's going to happen with AI, so I go back. Oh, I saw Terminator. I'm going to put that. It's going to be Terminator. So I put that in a spot, right? And my guess is it's not necessarily. That's not the. I'm not sure that's where we end up. I mean, could be.
I think with every new technology, there are the people who claim the sky is falling, right? You know, when we invented the cotton gin, right? People are like, oh no, this is the end of days, and it's always like that because change is scary, and change causes cortisol, right? The stress hormone to course through your body, and it triggers the fight or flight response, right? I don't, you know, no. My life works like this. I don't do that thing. Even if that thing might be better for me, it's different, and so it's scary. So that's also why that today me, tomorrow me, that whole thing, change management, getting people to adopt a new process, to use a new tool, that's where really creating those carrots fits in there too. And our AI agents are gonna adopt those, right?
So here, let me ask you this: Are you concerned that where's your concern end up with AI? Where do you see the biggest concern that you have about it?
So let's walk down the AI path just a little bit. As we start automating things, right? I get abstracted from life, right? So I have an agent, you know, pick my toothpaste for me, right? Because it's like, no, I did all the research. So all the research and crap that I don't really want to do in my own consumer choices, great. I'm going to offload that to an AI agent. You know, if I need to buy, you know, a new furniture set for my deck, great. AI agent, you go figure that out. I don't really care. Just get a good one. Okay, so we keep doing that. We keep offloading stuff. Now I'm like, yeah, I don't know where that furniture came from. It's like a fairy just dropped it off. As more decisions keep getting unloaded, right? Now one machine's talking to another one. My agent's talking to all the furniture maker agents. As that starts to grow, like, what do we decide?
Yeah.
Right?
Kind of interesting thought, right? I mean, from where we are here to that, that's a real interesting thought. Like, what are we doing in the game at that point? You know, if this is a big giant game, what you know, if it's making those, you know, I guess I've always thought if Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right, were met, you know, with food, shelter, self visual, you know, actualization, you know, if those start to get met, and let's say AI starts to fulfill decision making, and I mean, my thought has always been, will we go another level up?
Right. Yeah. Or does the definition of self-actualization start to change?
Ooh.
But you know, imagine today, like, Anthony, you got, you know, a bunch of friends, and you have like a personality style. And maybe for you or for some other people, it's like, well, this is my look. You know, I dress in a particular way. But, you know, now my agent decides all that for me. So I'm not even picking my clothes. I got some clothes in my closet. I just put them on. You know, I picked from my closet. But so does part of our personality start to get offloaded? Like, I don't know, my haircut. Did I like this? I don't know. The agent told me. The agent told the barber what to do. I just showed up, and it happened.
Right, like that becomes like a. Do we know that we're being manipulated by the agent?
Yeah. Do we care? Does self-actualization become something like, well, I don't know, I'm a higher level being, so now it's just all about, you know, philanthropy or just helping others. I don't know where that goes, but that's the real, in my opinion, the real threat is something like losing ourselves. Like, what are we about? It's not like getting in a fight with them or they're going to kill us. It's more like, do they pull away too much of us?
Well, like, I think I'm more concerned about their manipulation of, look, as long as I know that it's an AI agent, it's fair, because then I can make a decision logic knowing that. Like, if I know it's there, my concern is I can't have it pretend to be a human and not know, right? Because then I think the structure of our world will break down. I mean, look, then we can't have a democracy. Then we can't have, all of a sudden, you know, if I know, in other words, up until now, we've had clarity of, you know,
like authorship.
Yeah. We knew, like, we don't want to have fraudulent money, so we can trust the money system. Right. Did you ever photocopy a dollar bill? Yeah, I did. I did. I can walk in my mom's house, my mom's room. Hey, look what I did. You know, I brought it from, you know, I photocopied. I'm like, look at that. She's like, no, you can't do that. Right. Because you go to federal prison, and that was a big deal. And like, we knew that, manipulating that money was a big deal. And so we made real big rules around it. And now we trust the money system. I trust I have a dollar bill. That's not, very rarely do we ever get into, you know, some copies of it, or, but so we trust it. My concern is what happens when we don't know if that's another human talking to us and it's an AI agent, and we can't see that we're being manipulated. Right. So my concern is we got to keep some sort of a valve on, knowing what's AI and what's human.
So maybe, but let me give you another view to that.
Sure.
I bet we will knowingly give that away. And I think we're already doing it. We're already far down that path. So here's my proof point.
Sure.
How many phone numbers do you know that you learned in the last 10 years? Right. Right. So we've already offloaded, like, remembering phone numbers. Nah, you do that for me. If you were stuck without your phone and there was a payphone, if you could find a payphone, and you're like, yeah, call someone, you'd be like, I can't call anyone. I can call 911. That's the only number I know. And directions, right? You remember the old days when we had paper maps, right? Can you imagine trying to drive through Europe with a paper map?
A paper map, a cup of coffee, and a cigarette going at the same time while driving.
Right.
You got this big paper.
So I think we're already offloading that stuff willingly.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, great. I don't need to know that.
Yeah.
Probably. I hope. Right. And every day we offload a little bit more. My calendar, I have no idea what I'm doing this afternoon.
None.
Just
not without looking.
Zero clue. I have to go look at my digital calendar to figure that out. If I don't get a reminder, I can't remember anything. So we're willingly just saying, yep, you take that. You take that. We're going to get on the path, I think, of just saying, yep, take this. And it's someone would be like, shit, what do I do? I just eat and shit. That's all I do. This has become my life.
Well, so the question is, how far until that becomes useless? I mean, I ask you this. I mean, Neuralink comes along. Do you put one in you?
Why not?
I heard, part of me is like, absolutely. By the way, I want two, right? I need two Neuralinks. I'm gonna have one on this side that does anything my wife needs. It's gonna be focused on making her happy, right? Just whatever Sophia needs, she will get a complete focus on. This Neuralink will be all designed to make sure my wife is completely happy. The other one will do everything else. I got to remember your birthday, my friends, all that kind of good stuff. But you're exactly right. I'm putting two of them in me, and
one gets priority.
Yeah. Well, of course, you happy wife, happy life, right?
Yeah.
We've learned risk reward system, right? To get this wrong, right? I've got some carrots in my house that when I do things right, I get benefits of.
But despite all those risks, the alternative is not to avoid AI, right? We're not going to stick our head in the sand and say, oh, nope, I'm just going to keep doing things the way I've always done it. We still have to go down the AI path.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you don't, as an executive in a company, you're going to get smoked. Right.
Every single one of us knows that. I've spoken for the Young Presidents Group. Every single young president that we spoke to, every single one of them knows. We know that's true. We know that those who get to it first will separate from the rest of us so fast that you may or may not be able to catch up.
Yeah. And I'm sure you found the same experience, but it can be debilitating to figure out, well, where do I start?
That's right.
There's, I'm super anxious that my competitors are doing all this stuff and I'm not doing anything, or I don't know where to start. And the answer that I think I've heard you say is just start.
Just start lining up your data. One of the things we're doing at our company is taking all of the 13 different software packages and different silos we had in the organization. We got them all down to one. We're using smart sheets for everything. The whole idea is that the smart sheet that we're creating will be the language model that really serves the rest of the organization as we get into proper AI. But also just some simple things like, how do you start using like Meta glasses on a job site? Or how do we start using some of the tools that start to play in that, call it play in the playground?
Yeah, exactly. We built a little AI agent that will look at your daily logs on a job site. And the goal is to figure out who's doing a good job of filling out the daily logs, right? Because you can pencil whip stuff, yep, there were people here. Well, that's not actually very helpful. Yeah. Which people doing what? So we have an AI agent that will just go through and rate the quality of a daily log. And then you line up all the project managers and say, hey, you consistently do an awesome job. You not so good. What's the deal?
Training. I get some training there. And so look, I think these are all those questions that we're starting to have these amazing breakthroughs. I love that you're doing this in a positive way where we're motivating people in a positive way. I think that's always worked better. Not that we can see it. And I think you've come up with some great ideas. If there are people out there that want to bring your software to their organization, right? How do they get a hold of you? How do they start to integrate? Where do they start with just an experiment with their organization and your software?
Yeah. Well, the first deal is my email, drew@whistlerewards.com. They're happy, welcome, ping me. But the implementation fact is it's super easy. So we can light up a client in a matter of a few minutes, right? You put some money in a budget. You can walk a site and say, hey, I've got a new program. Every time I see somebody going above and beyond, just that, I'm going to send them a $5 coffee. It's no tech required. It's the easiest thing in the world. And so we have clients all over the world doing pilots. We can set up a pilot, like I said, launch it immediately. The impact is dramatic. And the best part is you can see the impact in a couple of days, right? With so many pilots, you got to wait. And you're like, well, in 9 months, we might be able to see some impact. In ours, gosh, a week, 2 weeks, and you're seeing real impact. Which is, it's wonderful to see the results. You can see things actually happening. And the people who are now doing the stuff, getting the time cards in or whatever it is, they're happy about it. They're not angry or like, man, you're just one more thing. They're like, oh yeah, thank you. Right. And that's pretty fun.
That's awesome. Look, it's a great idea. Look, having you on the podcast has inspired me to bring this into our organization. It's a fun way to go and really see how we could change people in a positive way. The stick is never worked. Let's go more for the carrot, right? People love carrots. And when I can give them the carrot for it, and really it's such a little cost when you think of the overall effect of having great safety programs, great on-time schedules, delivering projects on time. Those things that really move it are wonderful. Drew, your team is creating just a great tool. I want people to really go out and check it out. I'm going to put all the stuff down below. If our audience wants, they'll have everything right down here at the bottom of the podcast. Please go check that out and go check out what Whistle Rewards can do for you and your company. Anything else you want to tell everybody?
Try AI. Just start is a message. And the other deal is if you're thinking about incentives, if you want to drive behavior, start small. Do something small. Just make it fast and simple. Anthony, this has been great. Thank you for having me on.
It's awesome, brother. Thanks for being here. Hey, audience members, hey, could you do me a favor? Last week we had 62,000 subscribers on YouTube. An amazing week. You guys we're so proud of the audience and so grateful for all of you. If you guys could, but we noticed a lot of you guys made it to the end of the podcast and you weren't subscribers. And it means the world to our crew, Alyssa and Joe and the team in the background that really make this podcast happen. They work tirelessly to find great guests like Drew and his company to come on here. If you could take a second and like and subscribe right now, it just means the world to all of us. Please try to do that now. And as always, thanks for listening.